everyone. Today's topic of my presentation is international trade theories. So let's start. First, the overview of trade theories. Six landmark framework that shape how nation invest in the global commerce. First, the critical mercantilism. Second, absolute advantage. Third, comparative advantage. Fourth, Eglenshire by Olin theory. Fifth, new trade theory. And sixth, the Potter's diamond model. Start with classical mercantilism. Definition of mercantilism holds the national wealth is measured by gold and silver reserves. A country purposes by maximizing export and minimizing imports, generating a positive balance of trade. Its core belief that wealth equal to gospel of previous metal. Second, trade is a zero-sum game. One nation gain is and another lose. Third, state intervention via tariffs, courts, and colonial exploitation. Fourth, colonial access to supply raw material and buy the finished goods. Its critical evaluation is that ignore the mutual benefits of trade between the nation. Second, David Hume price spice follow the debunk bullions, lead to colonial exploitation, suppress free markets. Fourth, remnants visible in modern protectionism and the trade wars. Second and third is absolute and the comparative advantage. Absolute advantage means a country has an absolute advantage when it can produce a good using the fewer resources than another country. Each nation should specialize in what it produces most efficiently. There are some key points. First, challenge the mercantilism zero-sum view. Second, specialization increase the total world output. Fourth, free trade benefits all participating nations. Last is limitation. What if one country is better at everything? There is comparative advantage given by the David Ricardo. Even if one nation is less efficient at producing all goods, it should specialize in goods where its relative opportunity cost is lowest. Both nations gain from trade. Here are key points of this also. Opportunity cost is the key metric, or not absolute output. Foundation of modern free trade arguments. Explain why developing nations are compete globally and there is limitation. Ignore the economies of scale and dynamic change. Fourth, Heckscher by Olin theory. It explains the country export goods that uses their abundant factors of production intensively and import goods, requiring the scarce factor. Trade patterns are determined by the resource endowment. Land, first land, second labor, third capital. Labor, for example, is cheap in India and Bangladesh. Capital, USA and Germany, and land, Australia and Brazil. How it helps in export labor intensive goods, textiles, garments and handicraft. In capital, export the capital intensive machinery, chemical, electronics, and in land, Australia like Brazil, export the wheat, soya, minerals and timbers. Now fifth is productive life cycle and new trade theory. Productive life cycle theory, a product goes through introduction, growth, maturity, decline stage. It has the four stages. First, introduction, second, growth, maturity and decline. Production shifts from developed to developing nations as a product matures and become standardized. Here are some. Introduction means innovated and produced in rich country. Growth, exported to another advanced nation. Maturity, production moves to lower cost nation, and last is the decline, which the rich nation imports to its own invention. The next is new trade theory. New trade theory arises from the economies of scale and consumer trade. Economies of scale means when we are increasing the number of production, the overall cost of production is decreases, even without the initiative comparative advantage. First mover gain, lasting the advantage through scale. Now, there are some key points. Economies of scale create the natural monopolies. Industrial cluster. Government can create the advantage via infant industry support. Explain the intra-industry trade, for example, Germany, finance and cars. Last is Michael Porter Diamonds model. Its core idea is national competitive advantage is determined by four interactive determinants, not just natural resources. Nations create their own advantage through sustained investment, innovation and competition. It has the four factor condition, demand condition, related and support industry and the firm strategy structure and rivalry. First is factor condition, quality and specialization of inputs, skilled labor, research and development, infrastructure, capital market, created factors, engineers, patents matter more than basic ones. Demand, sophisticated domestic buyer push firms to innovate. A demanding home market creates world-class companies. Example, Germany, auto consumer. Third is related and the supported industries, cluster of competitive suppliers and related sectors. Rise efficiency, example Silicon Valley, tech ecosystem, Italian leather fashion cluster. Fourth is firm strategy. Intense domestic competition breeds global champions. Companies that survive through home market are battle handled for global competition. Next is the Porter's diamond, two catalyst. Government policy. First is uh, government policy and second is chance event. Catalyst means not a determinant and it is the disruptor reshape the competitive position. Government influences all four diamonds factors through the policy. It does not create the advantage directly but shapes the environment in which firm and industries are flourish. Key points are invest in education, research and development, infrastructure, set a product standard, enforce the antitrust laws to maintain the rivalry, avoid the sustained protection. Last is for Indian example here, PLI schemes, Digital India, Make in India. Chance event means random external event can shatter the established advantage and create the opportunities for new nations to rise. Chance disrupt incumbents and opens window for challengers. For example, some points are wars, pandemics, COVID-19 reshaping the global supply chain. Major technology discontinued AI and interrupt resolution. Oil price shock and commodity supply cycle. Financial crisis opening new capital flow. In India's opportunity, China plus one supply chain shift post COVID. Apart from this, these two our catalysts are beyond the four core determinants. Two external forces imply the competitive advantage. These two external forces imply the competitive advantage. There is a comparative analysis of the six theories: mercantilism, absolute advantage, comparative advantage, HO theory, new trade theory, and the Porter's diamond. Here are key assumptions: strength, limitation, and the relevance today. So there are two important theory right now it is working in. First is comparative advantage and second is Porter's diamond. Just because it focus on assumption of key opportunity and the Porter's created the advantage. Strength is universal applicability and it is limitation is static, ignore risky. In why it is Porter's very high? Because it's dynamic and holistic and difficult to quantify. There is a theory of mercantilism which assumption wealth equal to gold, strength is explain the protectionism and limitation is zero sum fallacy. And at last, the relevance of Indian economy landscape. Verdict is that Porter's diamond model holds the greatest relevance for India. India's path to global competitiveness lies not in factor endowment alone, but in creating dynamic advantage through the policy, innovation, ecosystem, and the industrial cluster. There are some key points. For example, factor condition improving. For example, IITs, IIM, ISRO, CSIR, world-class engineers, scientists, challenges, skill gap in manufacturing, your brain drain. Second is strength. Aspirational consumer driving demand for EVs, fintech, OTT, UPIs, ecosystem, and geo-democratics digital access. Second is growing, means related industry. Bangalore IT cluster, Surat textile, Ludhiana auto parts, Pune engineer, SEZ, and industrial corridor depending cluster. Fourth is the firm rivalry and strategy, which is a positive. Intense domestic competition, Reliance versus Airtel versus VI, produce the Geo Global Benchmark, GST and IBC reform improving the corporate governance. Fifth is government policy, very active. Make in India, PLI 1.97 lakh crore, Digital India, Nation Logistics Policy 2022, all aligned with the diamond levers. Last is chance disruption, which is open. China plus one strategy, apply the Samsung shifting production post COVID supply chain realignment to create historic window for India. And this is thank you, and this is from my side. Thank you.